As a disclaimer for this video, I am recovering from a cold, so if I sound a little bit tired or off, that's probably why. But I'm trying to keep my hopes high for y'all, trying to keep my voices high, and yeah, that's pretty much. Imagine you're in a world where you're shrunk down to the size of an ant.
Walt Disney Pictures presents The Last Frontier.
Dad can fix us, right, Nick?
Sprinklers on!
I'll tell you, their size, it's a jungle out there.
Reminiscent of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Grounded is a video game on Xbox One, Xbox Series, and Steam, including cross-platform play, about surviving the wilds of a backyard whose owner will play a key role in the game's story. I will try to keep this video story spoiler free, as the intention of the video is to introduce the game, my experience and opinion on the game, and why I think you should try Grounded for yourself sometime. Without further ado, let's begin. I'll try to keep this section spoiler free of both the late game and the story. First, I'll talk about the start of the game, the worlds. Grounded has shared worlds for multiplayer that are completely free to use, unlike Minecraft realms. They sometimes don't work as expected, but it's much better than you may think. This game also has a brand new feature called Playground Mode, where many have created their own unique experiences within Grounded, kind of like Minecraft Adventure Maps or Fortnite Creative Mode of the modern day. There's plenty of new resources to come across, new creatures, new landscape, the red ants scuttling by aphids running for their lives as they try to escape these hands, and weevils who are the biggest punching bag of the yard. You may also come across a ladybug, or a spider, but we'll get into that later. I won't bother to explain most of the basic mechanics of the gameplay, such as food, water, and health, as they are pretty self-explanatory and have a basic function of these games. The basic gear is pretty easy to get, just some simple crafting and resource management, as well as using a resource scanner to unlock more recipes. I like this idea of a resource scanner, using the ideas it brings to make some bizarre looking or even badass armor, as the kids probably wouldn't have come up with these ideas themselves. Next to it, we have the ASL terminal and the resource scanner. The terminal is used to buy stuff from the raw science shop, as well as access to quests and upgrade your character. And the scanner, well, you can figure that out. The story gives hints as to where you will want to go, but as someone who has played this game before its full release, I already know most of the little secrets or where to go to progress later into the game. I like how the story helps guide players without revealing everything, keeping the art fresh and new for those willing to explore. The gameplay is unique for a survival game, as it takes a sort of Souls-like approach to its fighting mechanics. I use the term very loosely here, as the game is nothing like Dark Souls or any FromSoft game for that matter in terms of its style. The main way to avoid taking damage is by blocking, which is also dependent on the meter used while blocking. If this meter fills while blocking an attack, it will stun the player, letting the enemy get free hits on you. To counteract this, the game has a very special feature called Perfect Blocking, which I will refer to as parrying for the rest of the video. Like most games that utilize a parry mechanic, you must block right before the creature is going to attack, which blocks all incoming damage and will knock them back sometimes depending on the attack. You'll know you've done a parry when your shield or weapon sparkles and a special sound plays. Generally, parrying is necessary to get used to when playing this game, as there's many enemies later in the game that can take good chunks of your health even when blocking, as some attacks are unblockable but parryable. Grounded also introduces mechanics of enemy resistances and weaknesses, thus forcing the player to diversify their playstyle to have the most effective weapon for any given enemy or boss. You can check these by looking in the creature data tab in your inventory or by peeping them through your peeper. Personally, I think this mechanic of the game helps prepare you for more difficult enemies and is less important in the early game, as there's weapons that stand in the best of all weapons in that tier. Most weapons are crafted on the workbench, which all armor is crafted on as well. Typically in a game like this, you'd think where you would put your home base, and let me tell you, The building mechanics are some of the most unique in a survival game I've ever played. You essentially are given a bunch of blueprints for walls, floors, decor, and crafting stations. It's almost like building with Legos, but with grass planks, weed stems, mushrooms, etc. I've heard many complaints about the building in the early game, but they have since improved it very much, letting the player carry many more planks and stems on them at once while using red ant armor, and with a new mutation called Hauling Hero. Plus, with the addition of large pallets, building has become much easier than it ever was in Grounded, and I highly praise the developers for fully fleshing out this part of the game, as some of the blueprints we are given are very flashy and beautiful, and some buildings people have made are out of this world. If you love building and open world survival games and making a nice, huge, diverse base, Grounded is very good at that. Grounded has sat well in my heart for a long time, and will continue to be one of my favorite survival games alongside Subnautica, Minecraft, and Terraria. I consider it to be a good mix of all of these games. If you came here for the introduction and want to try out the game for yourself, heed my warning that there will be gameplay and story spoilers as well as spiders throughout my review, criticism, and nitpicks of the game as of the 1.3.4 update. First, let's start off with the combat and the creatures. The combat can be really smooth, especially after getting good at parrying attacks. I almost always parry while fighting. And a change made recently made holding shields give you a debuff that reduces 20% of the damage you deal. This makes the Ladybird shield obsolete, as the block corrosion of the fire ant shield is much more useful, mostly negating the effects of holding a shield when blocking attacks. Personally, I think the fire ant armor is very basic, giving the same corrosion effect as the shield, but instead while you attack. Pair this with the Blade Master and either a fresh toenail scimitar or a fresh tick sword, or Javelineer with a salty rusty spear, and you've got the best solo endgame build, even in woe mode. I personally think this isn't a very good preferred or meta armor set, since it has such universal uses, and is very easy to get, only requiring some basic fire ant parts and tier 3 materials. Instead of nerfing the set, please improve the other sets to be more viable. I love the Broodmother set for woe mode, as after playing with mostly light and medium armor sets, the heavy armor's damage protection just works for most enemies aside from high damage ones, such as the Moth and most bosses, as you'll get 2-shot without heals or blocking. Generally, you'll want to deal more damage while not getting hit, which shows skill, but while playing with friends, generally everyone can pick whatever set they want in woe mode and still be fine. Speaking of woe mode, I never really play the game in any other mode after doing my first run of woe, as they feel too easy, especially when I'm hosting. Most creatures in the game are very well designed, in my opinion, the most notable of them being the Orb Weaver, Wolf Spider, Roly-Poly, Antlion, and this may be controversial, but I've always had no trouble fighting the termites and their king. Most ants are okay to fight, but both the termites and ants have one problem, and that's the amount of them in one place. In groups, these guys can really mess you up. I love the Orb Weaver and the Wolf Spider because they have some of the best telegraphed movements in the game and are easy to parry. The Roly-Poly, well, it's a Roly-Poly. Its only annoying thing is its self-healing capabilities, but a Mint Mace can easily deal with that. The Antlion isn't as good of a creature, especially the ones in those sand pits. I hate those guys. But I've always liked the way they burrow and take you by surprise, as they aren't always as bad when they gang up on you since they aren't very fast. And parrying one can knock them both back. See, these guys are well and good, but there's some enemies that are super annoying to fight, and I'll include ways I'd change some of them. The first I would like to look at is the Wasp drone. Wasps themselves are alright, but the drones make fighting them so much worse. They constantly scream at the top of their lungs, giving the other wasps, including themselves, buffs, such as one where their attacks apply bleed, and a self-healing buff which affects all other wasps in the area. I've always hated the health buff, mostly because I don't use ranged weapons. I feel a good way to change this is to replace the health buff with a defensive buff, thus making the wasps harder to kill when a drone is around, but not unfair when they're all grouped together, as it's really annoying to do a lot of damage to a wasp, only to have them heal their whole health bar and having to prolong the fight for so long. The next one is the Black Widow. I wouldn't change a thing about it now, but it goes absolutely bat insane when it eats its own babies, causing it to do all of its attacks at high, unblockable speeds. The only way to counter this is to kill its babies before it kills them first, but it's a lot harder in practice. The infected wolf spider is also something I have a problem with. First of all, sick design. It brings a sense of eeriness to the game, knowing the infection can take over one of the main predators of the yard. But second of all, frick these stupid explosions. I do not want to have to go up to fight this thing, only to get murked by a 3-hit combo explosion attack that is completely unblockable. It doesn't help that the fungal charm has a 1% drop chance from haze fungus, otherwise that would be a viable option, though the gas mask upgraded Sleek has explosive resistance. But you're going to want all the defense you need for this mini-boss, as he has an explosive mine attack that is basically a proximity bomb, so good luck with that. On top of that, he has a higher damage and faster attacks than the regular wolf spider. The way I changed this mini-boss is to make the fungal charm easier to get, since through my whole playthrough of Grounded, 140 plus days, so many fungus chopped, no charm. You guys wanted this. You guys wanted this. Anyways, I think I had enough of the creatures. Except the Termite King. But Lunai, you said the termites weren't that bad. Yeah, they're not that bad to fight, but getting the gold card is a different story. I don't want to have to save, fight waft raids, get no king, quit, join, get Termite King, no gold card, quit, join, get Termite King, no gold card, and have to do this over and over and over again for 3 hours straight. I speak from experience. Now, I don't have that much problem going around the map killing every creature I can find just to have that sweet 1% drop chance of having a gold card, and I don't mind fighting in a waft emitter raids to get the gold card either. In fact, I love that the raids give you that opportunity. But this Termite King is just not possible in a normal amount of time to get normally without saves coming for it. So I'd highly recommend for the devs to increase the gold card drop chance of the Termite King to at least 10%, as he takes 3 days in-game to respawn and cannot be spawnable with a 100% chance on command. Even if he does spawn, you've got very limited tries, as the King Carapaces are required to spawn the Termite King. So safe scumming is pretty much required to get 100% on your report card. And I don't know any sane person who would try to get this normally. Other honorable mentions for annoying gold cards to get are the green shield bugs, moth, and wasp drone, being almost impossible to get without raids. This will conclude the creatures and combat segment. First is going to be an introduction. Oh my god!
You!
On to mutations now. This segment will be a mini tier list of around 10 to 20 second explanations about why they are in that tier. They will be going in the order they are listed on the Grounded wiki. Meat Shield, plus 50 health points. Good for early game, not so great late game. B tier. Buff Lungs, plus 50 stamina points. Basically the same reason as the Meat Shield, but a little bit more or less useful depending on the person or playstyle you're going for. B tier. Daredevil, reduced fall damage. You can survive any fall with every milk molar collected and used on health. F tier, never use this. Battle Buddies, reduced damage done to other players and increases damage resistance from other players. It's good if you're using an explosive build. Credit to Paralyzer for this idea from his Grounded 1.3 mutations tier list, but other than that, it's garbage. D tier. Dissection Expert, increases drop chance of loot by 10%. I always have this mutation on, it's just so useful for getting loot quickly. S tier. Lil Fist, gives damage buffs when using the fists. Phase 3 is guaranteed second hit. I never use fists, so I can't tell you if it's really that good, but there's so many more conventional ways of attacking, plus with the new shield nerf, it makes fists kind of useless. D tier. Chopper. Gives a buff when using axes that lower enemy attacks. I am not a huge fan of axes in this game, but they're pretty good when used with this mutation, especially the Sour Battle Axe being an absolute powerhouse of a weapon. Why is Director Schmechter considered the final boss? The Black Widow and Infected Broodmother are so much more difficult. A tier. Smasher. Lowers enemy attack speed when using hammers. Hammers suck as a weapon, period. F tier. Javelineer. Increased throwing damage of spears and thorns ability. I don't care for the thorns, but the throwing damage of spears are god tier, doing insane damage and one-shotting many creatures behind woe mode. S tier, one of my favorites. Assassin. Applies bleed that deals damage over time to enemies. Daggers have kind of fallen off as of late, and for some reason the scythe is included in this group of weapons. I'm not complaining, but this should really only be used if you're making a souped up dagger build, otherwise it's pointless. B tier. Sharpshooter. Increases crit chance by landing bow hits, and Phase 3 makes the elemental arrows have special buffs. In my opinion, it's like Whittle Wizard, but worse, since the buffs you get with Whittle Wizard are much more conventional and don't waste materials on arrows that are costly to craft, and I don't care about crit chance. B tier. Barbarian. Enables rage mode, increased damage with clubs, but makes it almost impossible to perfect block. Phase 3 is a small regen buff when enraged. It's good for players who want to be the all-powerful Genghis Khan and overtake the yard with their insane abilities, but with no defensive capabilities outside of using a one-handed club, it kinda sucks. C tier. Blade Master. Lowers attack damage of creatures when using a sword. Phase 3 works almost the same as Chopper. With swords being pretty strong and grounded, having that debuff that decreases damage in woe mode can be really helpful. S tier. Whittle Wizard. Gives staves elemental abilities. Spice burns, mint slows, sour stuns. Phase 3 reduces stamina use of staves by 50% after hitting an enemy. I love being a wizard in any video game, and this game does that very well visually, but it doesn't in practice. See, a personal complaint I have with these staves, especially the mint staff, is that I don't time my shots correctly, and I play like a little Timmy plays a match of Call of Duty Warzone, so I have a bit of a skill issue with this build, otherwise it's good. A tier. Parry Master. Perfect blocks refund stamina. It's an all-around great mutation and should be used a lot, but I don't since I favor Cardio Fan. Maybe it will grow on me. S tier. Grassmaster, Rockcracker, Hauling Hero. Increases grass damage, rock damage, and hauling strength, respectively. I have them grouped together because they are all useful for material gathering and building, and I always have them on in a separate mutation loadout. B tier for all. Coup de Grace and Trapper Peeper. Increases critical hit chance and critical hit damage, respectively. I also have these grouped together since they both have to do with critical hits. I don't really enjoy crit builds since they are based on chance, but when you get lucky, these together can really pack a punch. B tier for both. Rascal Rogue. Steals items from enemies, typically used for trinket stealing. It's a good mutation if you're a collector and like getting all the trinkets in the game, but Dissection Expert is a lot more useful. A tier. Juicy. Decreases thirst rate. Bad. F tier. Natural Explorer. Increases movement speed. Getting around the map fast and running fast in general is the best thing ever and should be equipped at all times. S tier. Mertine. Increases underwater time and swim speed. It's good at what it does, but it's situational and only should be used when exploring the pond. C tier. Cardio Fan. Increases stamina regen and decreases stamina regen delay. One of my favorites, and I don't really care if anyone says it's not viable, I love it. S tier. Reliable Friend. Increases revive speed for teammates. Only good for multiplayer, but is very good in multiplayer. A tier. Fresh Defense. Increases gas, burning, and sizzle resistance. Great for what it does, but is also situational, though it is a lot better than Mertine since it has more uses. A tier. Spicy Safety. Stabbing and busting damage resistance. It's useful, especially in woe mode where it's just straight up damage resistance from some attacks. A tier. Sour Sensation. Thorns Effect. Not good since you have to take damage for it to be useful. F tier. Ant Annihilator. increases attack damage and damage resistance against ants. It's really good for clearing out ant hills and doing any mixer defenses with ants included. B tier. Mom Jeans. Spawns spiderlings to fight for you and increases poison damage. It's good if you're doing a summoning build, and with the increased poison damage, it's great with daggers, but I feel it is only good in that specific niche. B tier. Mithridatism. Increases damage resistance to poison. Note that this does not work with Broodmother Venom or Black Widow Venom, so it's pretty much useless outside of fighting wolf spiders, orb weaver juniors, and wasps. B tier. Truffle Tussle. Attacking with fists has a chance to make an explosion. It's really situational, and I don't know anyone who really uses it. D tier. Manserious Stranger. Summons the Mant sometimes when fighting enemies. It's good as a distraction tool and for a summoning build, as summoning multiple at once can create some opportunities for getting out of a sticky situation. Much better than Mom Jeans. A tier. Apex Predator. Boss weapons have their own unique buffs. I won't go in depth on this mutation, as I'm sure there are other resources out there that can explain it much better than I could, but depending on the weapon you're using, it can be pretty good. A tier. Corporate Kickback. Some blocked attacks will heal the player for how much damage they would have dealt. Since it's a decently small chance, it's not the most viable option, but if you are in a tight situation, it can save you, though most of the time I forget it's even there. B tier. Shocking Dismissal. After blocking attacks, you have a chance to make an electric shock that damages and stuns. It's very good solo, but in multiplayer it can mess everyone up pretty badly. A tier. Bardic Inspiration. Has a chance to apply buffs to the player when hitting with bow shots. I haven't used this mutation all that much, but in practice I feel it would be pretty viable because of its defensive capabilities. A tier. Guard Dog. Increases damage during defense events. It's really just straight up a damage increase that can make doing mixers and all defense events much easier to deal with. S tier. Spore Lord. Dealing explosion damage gives players buffs until they leave combat. I've never used the infected Broodmother things because she is the hardest boss in the game, and I don't like that I can't even use the explosions against her since it heals her. This mutation is good, just disappointing. C tier. Let me know if you guys agree with my list. This concludes the mutation section. I would do a tier list of all the weapons and armor, but that would honestly take a lot of time, and there's so many things that I could say about a lot of the weapons, about what I believe is the best element to have on each, and all that jazz. Plus, there's a bunch of unique weapons that have their own sort of category. Onto my opinions about the graphics and presentation of the game. I think the game looks immaculate, only with minor graphical errors every now and then. The game feels like a huge world within someone's backyard, and that's such an interesting feeling to have, because usually you're not this small in every game. Let's say the yard is theoretically around 10 meters by 10 meters in size, not counting the wonky grass and the way the game tracks exactly how far you are away from markers. If you put that into perspective, the GTA 5 map, according to Reddit user u/DomRicoBene, is around 80 kilometers squared in sheer size. That would mean 8,000 plus yards could fit on the land of GTA 5 alone. Forgive me if my math is wrong, I just thought that was cool to look into. Aside from statistics, I found the design of the backyard to be really cool. Like, the place you start is down in the lower part of the yard, where most of the time people are walking around, and the upper parts of the yard have a lot more trenches and places to explore as plant life has overtaken it. I especially like the look of the haze fungus, and after plugging the canister, the bugs go around the yard and infest some random locations, giving more opportunities to get more gold cards, but other than that, it's useless unless you really hate having to take a gas mask with you all the time. Other than the nice map design, being very explorative and allowing the player to parkour to almost all the places other than a select few, like the Moldork Castle, the game looks very nice too. On PC, you can really see how much effort the devs made to make you feel like you're really small. I've already gone over my opinion on building in the introduction, and since not everyone will agree with me on it, I'll just leave it there. A lot of what I said are generalized things and not all very specific, which means there's a lot about the meat of the game that I could get into, but I feel like that could be a different video for a different time, like ranking weapons or armor. Now I'll get into the multiplayer experience and other opinions, featuring a good friend of mine, TheColdArmy, also known as Jack.
Alright, sorry about that. I was in a watch party, but I'm ready.
Since you've been playing this game since alpha, is there anything you would have changed about how the game was now since it was in alpha?
I would say this game is pretty almost complete. I just feel like there could be a little bit more they could do, but like I'm sure they'll do more in the future. But as of right now, I think this game is just as good as the way it is. The only complaint I have right now is just everything that 100% is stuck behind RNG.
Yeah.
Like, because gold cards can take you upon hundreds and maybe even thousands of hours if you're just that unlucky. Other than everything, I think this game is just like a 9.5 out of 10. I give it.
Yeah. I did say 8.5, but I would put it up to a 9.
This game is just, this is probably like the only survival games that I just think is really creative. It's like, it's very fun. I could put hundreds of hours in it and never get bored of it. Like, even since alpha, I've always just, this game has always just been like, just, I don't really know how to describe it. It's just been good. Yeah, maybe somewhere around, maybe just 10% for everything, because, like, I don't know, 1% for a damn Termite King is just ridiculous, and same with the Black Widow.
I think all normal bugs should be increased to, like, either 3% or 5%, but not, like, 1%, because that's literally, like, you're sinking countless hours just trying to get this gold card when you want to 100% the game. Which is completely based off of luck and not skill.
Yeah, it's kind of stupid to me. For options, I would say, I feel like for immersion, I would say maybe make the characters feel, you know, more, I don't know, maybe fucking human. Because, or just like, it's really, I get like they're supposed to be kids, they're supposed to be goofy, but like, if you really think about this, this is probably the scariest situation you can ever be in your entire life. Imagine being shrunken down to the size of an ant. You're in your backyard and you just see a fucking big ass spider. Like, imagine that. Just like you wouldn't be pissing your pants.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I like how they're like the only thing I can really see them be slightly scared is when they see an effective wolf spider and go, "We're really gonna do this."
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like it'd be better for like the game if these kids were just a little bit more scared of what's going on instead of just. But then again, this game's not like rated M. It's like T, I think.
It would be cool if they gave the teens like the more like burgle chips they collected, or like the more they explore the yard, the less scared they become. And the more adaptive they become to their environment.
Yeah, I just think you would think after this entire situation, these kids would have some sort of PTSD, but no. After the game, they just go back to their lives saying, "No, well, yeah, I survived. I survived basically Vietnam War.
Yeah,
just sitting in the yard, fighting for my life every day." So I think that I wish the weapons were just a little bit more unique. Like, I wish every weapon was a little bit more unique in their own way. Like they are, but just like every single time you like swing something, it just kind of feels like the same.
Another complaint I have about like this game and the gear and stuff is the armor. The armor, what the
Yeah, that was me. Sorry.
Some of the armor is completely like it's not good, and then there's other armor that's just way better. Like you got the ladybug armor, which like trumps like a few tier 3 set armors. Like why it's just that like I don't know why there's so many armors with just some useless like set bonuses and stuff.
You ready to go, by the way?
Yeah. Oh, I should mark the rest.
But yeah, I agree with you. There's just some armors in here that are just plain out useless. Like, how useful is the ladybug bug. I mean, no, not the infected broodmother armor. Like, how useful is it until if only you're fighting the broodmother?
It's literally only useful for fighting, like, pretty much anything else around the yard other than the infected broodmother. Unless something is, like, resistant to explosive damage, in which case, then it's kind of useless to use. Like, so it's basically, you have, like, this armor that doesn't really center around any specific build except for explosions, and it's just kind of trash when compared to a lot of other armors that you can center a build around. It's like
Yeah.
it's like you can only ever use like the grenade thing that comes with the moldy armor. So, and it's completely useless against the infected broodmother because she heals from explosions. So
Yeah, it's meh. Some of the armor here is just very useful, barely useful.
yeah,
Do you think the story should be longer, or do you think it's fine the way it is?
I feel like there should be more side quests, and instead of like, because there's a lot of side quests in this game, but they're all like very, like linear, and I feel like there should be a bit more lore behind like how the kids got here instead of just them having dreams and such. What? I just saw you fall.
Yeah, I didn't have my. I thought I had my Dandelion clip. Go on.
Oh yeah, I just did the same thing.
This is not good. Please
For
help.
God's sake, what's pissed? Oh, it's of course. Yeah, one other complaint is I hate the upper yard because of these things.
Yeah, I feel like they should have some kind of mutation where if you're exploring the upper yard, things don't get mad at you all the time. Except for like maybe ox beetles and like maybe not ladybirds, but I don't know. Ladybirds are really annoying when they get mad at you and then they start coming towards you and yeah.
Yeah, I get what you mean. For me, I think this game should be, I agree, a little bit more lore heavy and just a little bit more story driven.
It's like the game tries to take itself seriously in some ways, but it just doesn't in other ways, which makes it very inconsistent. I'm dead again.
I need some assistance.
Did you bring any heals with you?
Yeah, I did.
I was sure that was the end.
I just think this game is just due to the sheer gameplay and the diggability of it. It's just it trumps almost everything.
Now onto my final rating and recommendation of Grounded. For a shortened version, I'll put up some images of a Steam review generator that I did about the game, in case you don't want to listen to me elaborate on some of the things that I believe are true about the game. But here, I think that the graphics are beautiful, and I wouldn't change a thing about the graphics. I really like the depth of field blur. I just have it set to medium because it's a bit too much when it's on high. The gameplay is very good. I think there's some things that the developers could do to make it a little bit better, but I honestly wouldn't really change that much about it. The audio design is also good, as the developers came up with some sound designs for bugs of all things. Like, there's some bugs that we don't know what they sound like, and the wolf spider sounds like really scary, so I give them props to that. The audience, I think it's for all audiences, but I prefer to put teens, adults, and grandma into it because I don't think kids would really enjoy playing a game about fighting spiders. And the reason why I put grandma here is because I saw this very wholesome YouTube channel of a grandma playing Grounded after her son bought the game for her. And shout out to her, even though I don't have an audience. Check her out. PC requirements are decent. It's not really a large game either. It's very workable. It's a very workable game. The difficulty is easy to learn and hard to master because there's a lot of things that you might find really frustrating at the beginning, because fighting your first wolf spider is going to be one of the most challenging experiences you might face in Grounded, and also probably one of the most terrifying, so there you go. The grind level is average because of the milk molars and most of the quartzite and the marble that you can find around the map. You can also craft quartzite and marble with bug parts, and that's used to upgrade your weapons. So if you really want to have good weapons, you're gonna have to upgrade them. The story is good. I'd say they could add a little bit more to the game with story, but I see that story isn't really their main focus of the game. The story is more like a side thing. The game is more you're a kid trapped in the yard and you gotta survive and fight. The game time is long if you try to 100% it, but it's really not all too long if you just want to get through the story. The price, I would have said get it on sale, but honestly, because I enjoyed it so much, I'd say it's worth the price. But to some people who don't really enjoy these kind of games, maybe they'd only get it while it's on sale for about 50% off or 25. Bugs, I haven't really ran into some bugs except for this one bug a while back when I was playing beta where a ladybird larva launched me into a rock and I died. Or that other time I was playing with Jack when a bee launched him into the air multiple times. But other than launching people into the air and dying to weird stuff like that, there isn't really that many game-breaking bugs. And my final out of 10 rating, I'll give the game a 9 out of 10. Reason I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10, it's because it's not my favorite game ever. It's not my favorite survival game ever. I enjoy other survival games, but honestly, I wouldn't really give them a 10 out of 10 either. There really isn't such thing as a perfect game, but this game comes really close to what I really like in a survival game, and I wish more games did stuff like this. That'll be it for this review. I hope any of you who are watching enjoys this review. If you did, you can leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. I don't care. And subscribe if you want to see more content from me, because I'm trying to diversify my content. And that'll be it, y'all. I'll see you guys later.